All right, so 2 said, find the focus in the directrix, y equals negative 4x squared. So the catch is here, remember the number can't be on the front of the squared term. So I've seen people like switch it too. You get so accustomed to, which is completely up to you, the squared being on the left, that sometimes I'll see people switch these, which is fine. You could rewrite that as negative 4x squared equals y, and then you want to move it. So I'm going to divide by negative 4, and I'd get x squared equals negative 1/4 y. So it's an x squared, which means it's up or down, but it's negative, which means it's down. So I know the parabola opens downward. I know the vertex is at 0, 0, because there's nothing inside the parentheses. And then if 1/4 equals 4p, and I go to divide by 4 or multiply by 1/4, p is 1/16. So I'm going to go from 0, 0 down 1/16. So it'd be 0, negative 1/16 for the focus. And I'd go up 1/16, so it's a y equals 1/16 for the directrix.
Yeah, I got 1/4 and I kept trying it and I got it wrong. Then I realized, I had to...
Oh, you had to divide by 4. Yeah, okay. And then 5. So the y is also on the same side as the x squared. We need to keep the x squared positive, so I move the y to the other side. Negative 12y. So it's x squared again, negative, so it points down again. The vertex is at 0, 0 again because there's nothing inside the parentheses. And then 12 equals 4p, which makes p 3. So from that 0, 0, you're going to count down 3. So 0, negative 3 is the focus. And you're going to count up 1, 2, 3. And that's the directrix. It's horizontal, so it's y equals 3. So just be careful with make sure, like Richard was asking, make sure if it's, basically the directrix is going to be the opposite letter of the one that's squared. Like if it's an x squared, it's a y equals. If it's a y squared, it's an x equals. So if it's like a trick like that you need to help you remember it, that's fine. Or just keep in mind, like if it's opening up or down, it's going to be horizontal line. And if it's horizontal line, it's a y equals. But you want to make sure you keep practicing that the focus is a point and the directrix is a line. All right, so the good news is we get a review with this section, this part, because it's still parabolas. It's just now we're flip-flopping. So now I'm giving you information about the parabola, and you're going to give me the equation of the parabola. So when we find the equation of the parabola, there's 2 ways to do it. Well, not 2 ways, depending on what information you're given. The first is if the vertex is 0, 0. So if I don't have anything, either it's going to tell you it's at the origin or the vertex is 0, 0, and then it will give you some sort of information. It will either give you the focus or the directrix, or so you're getting or the direction it faces. You're getting some of that information, enough to figure out which way it points and what p is. So once you know which way it points, you determine if it's a y squared or an x squared. So if it faces right or left, I know it's y squared. If it faces up or down, I know it's x squared. Then the next thing you do is just find p, and then you plug it in. So if I know it points to the right, I know it's a positive y squared. I figure out what p is, and I multiply it times 4, and there's my equation. These answers will be like y equals 16, or y squared equals 16x, or x squared equals 16y. So that's what your equation would look like if your vertex is at 0, 0. If your vertex is not at 0, 0, then you're still going to try from the information that it gives you to figure out which way it's facing. If it's a right or left, it's still a y squared. If it's up or down, it's still an x squared. But then you have to figure out your vertex, and then you'll plug your vertex in. Remember, the y coordinate of your vertex always goes with the y, so that's the k. The x coordinate of your vertex always goes with the x, that's the h. And then you'll also figure out p. So for me, I always draw these out. People like to do these in their head because you can, which is fine, but people make silly mistakes when they do that. So I'm a visual person. I always draw it out. I would write the same thing, especially until you get the hang of it. So you're going to usually get given at least 2 pieces of information, either the vertex and the focus, or the vertex and the directrix, or the focus and the directrix. So if I plot just that information, I should be able to figure out a lot of information about this parabola. If I start with the vertex at 0, 0 here, and a focus at 2, 0, that means I move to the right 2, and I plot a point. What do we know about this parabola already? It's horizontal. It points in which direction? To the right. My HK is X. I'm in a 0, 0, so I already know that this is going to be an X. Well, sorry, a Y squared equals 4PX. So the Y is squared because it's turned sideways. It's positive because it points to the right. All I have to do is figure out what P is. How do I find P?
Wait, I was going to ask if it's negative, where do you put the negative?
On the front here. Yeah. How do I know P?
The distance away from the vertex.
Distance from the vertex to the focus. So count it. 1, 2. P is 2. So I get Y squared equals 4 times 2 times X. Or Y squared equals 8X. Now go to 2. Vertex again at 0, 0. This time my focus is 0, 3/8. So I don't go left or right at all, but I go up to 3/8. And it's my focus. What do I know about this parabola?
It's an X squared.
It's an X squared. And it's positive. Good. It points up, so it's a positive X squared. So I get X squared equals a positive 4 times P, which is what? 3/8 times Y. So 4 goes into 8 twice. X squared equals 3/2 Y.
Is omega the same from last night, where it's like pick a graph and then...
Most of them are not graphing. There's one, I think, that's graphing. The rest is literally typing that equation in. Yeah, and you'll need the full equation just like this. Yep. Same set of instructions. Find the equation with the given information. 3, vertex at 0, 0. Focus at 2/3, 0. So I go to the right to 2/3. What do we know about this parabola? Good. What not? X squared. Y squared. Positive 4P. What's P? 2/3. And then this becomes Y squared equals 8/3 X. So you want to keep it like that. You don't need to put it in mixed number form. Don't waste your time, okay? Still good? Okay, 4, little different. Now it says it's on the vertical axis. What does that mean? Good, it means it's pointing up or down. The vertex is at 0, 0. And it passes through -2, 12. So left 2, up 12 means this parabola is pointing in which direction? Up. So it's up, which means X squared, positive 4P. But I have no way of finding P right now. There's no focus, there's no directrix. Why would it give me a point that it passes through, in addition with it giving you the direction? What could I do with that X, Y? Huh? Oh, that would be fun. Don't do that. You probably could, but yeah. I could plug in the X and the Y. If this is an X and Y it passes through, then it is the X and Y that works in that equation. So I would get -2 in the parentheses squared, that negative stays with the 2, equals 4 times P times 12. 4 equals 4 times P times 12, or 48P. Divide both sides by 48. And P equals 1/12. Now I plug that back in here. X squared equals 4 times 1/12 Y. 4 goes into the 12 3 times, so it's 1/3 y.
Why did you plug the 12 into the y and not the p?
Because the p has to be the distance from the vertex to the focus, or the vertex to the directrix, and I had neither of those. So this is the other piece of information they give you, which is x, y. Any point along that parabola, you would be able to plug in as your x and y. You're welcome. Everybody still good? All right, now we're moving away from the origin. It's still the same set of directions. Find the equation of the parabola with the given information, but notice 5 first starts with vertex at 1, 3. So be careful how you draw these. You want to be accurate because you're actually going to have to sometimes count it out if you don't use like the actual points themselves. If you wanted to bring in a coordinate grid, you could. Okay, again, you don't need to. On your quiz, if it's this kind of information, you're not going to get a graph. So I would just draw this carefully. So the first thing I'm going to do is plot that vertex. So if the vertex is 1, 3, and my focus is -1, 3, -1, 3, what direction is this parabola facing? Left, which means which variable is squared? Y, and positive or negative 4p? Negative. The difference this time is not just y squared. It's y minus k squared equals negative 4p x minus h. Because my vertex has moved off of the origin, I now have to involve the h and the k. So I already know the h and the k, right? Here's my h and here's my k. Y minus 3 squared would equal negative 4p x minus 1. I plug in the h and the k. And now all that's left to find is p, which would be what? This is where you want to be careful. If your graph is a mess, don't use your graph to physically count. If you actually space it out right, you can. I'm going from positive 1 to negative 1. What's p? Good. So I get y minus 3 squared equals negative 4 times 2 x minus 1, or y minus 3 squared equals negative 8 x minus 1. Questions on that one? All right, so all of those involve the focus in some way. Now we're going vertex directrix. So vertex is back at 0, 0 on this one. My directrix is y equals 1. What kind of line is that? Horizontal. Good. The y always is 1, right? So y equals 1 is here. What do I know about this parabola? Points down, which means good, negative 4p, and what variable is squared? Good. X squared equals negative 4py. What's p? 1. Questions on those? All right, so first one, vertex is at 0, 0. Directrix is x equals 4. It's a vertical line that passes through 4. So which direction does this face? Left, good. Which means which variable is squared? Y, and positive or negative 4p? Negative, good. So I'd get the distance between the vertex and the directrix, which is 4. That's your p. So y squared equals negative 4 times x, or y squared equals negative 16x. Raise your hand if you got it right. Good. All right, 8 says vertical axis. So again, we're on the y-axis, the vertex at 0, 0. That means it could point up or it could point down. But then I get -2, -2 that it passes through. So I know this is going to point down. I get a -4p and an x squared. And my vertex is still at 0, 0. So it would equal, that's a y. X squared would equal -4py. I don't know p, I don't have the focus, and I don't have the directrix. So this is another opportunity where we're going to plug in these for the x and the y. So I'd get -2 squared equals -4 times -2 times y. 4 would equal 8 times y. Divide both sides by 8. Not y. Sorry, hang on. I replaced the wrong variable. It is the right answer, but for p, and then y would be -2. So this is 4 equals, it's still 8p, but then we divide both sides by 8, and I get p equals 1/2. So when you plug it back in, x squared equals -4 times 1/2 times y. X squared would equal -2y. Raise your hand if you got that one right. Good. Questions? Yeah.
I don't know if it's -4 or -4.
Because so you know it's on the vertical, right? Which means it has to go up or it has to go down. As soon as you get this point down here, I know it's got to point down. So then it becomes the -4p. All right, last slide, last set of examples. Find the equation of the variable. 9 says vertex at 3, 2, and focus at 1, 2. So again, start with your vertex. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, up 2. That's also my HK because I need that later. Focus is at 1, 2. So this is my vertex. Which direction? Left. Good. So y squared and -4p. So I've got y minus k squared equals -4px minus h. I know k is 2. I have to count the distance from the focus to the vertex, so p is 2. And then x minus my h is 3. I get y minus 2 squared equals -8x minus 3. Questions on that one? All right, now 10 gives me the focus and the directrix. So this is the first time we haven't gotten the vertex. If the focus is at 0, 0, and the directrix is at 1, 2, 3, 4, y equals 4, which direction is this parabola facing? Down, which tells me what squared? The x squared and -4p. Where's my vertex? Halfway between them. Good. So you can either literally like plot 2 points and then find the midpoint, let's say, or you could use your graph. Halfway between 0 and 4 is 2, right? 0, 2 is your vertex. So I'd get x minus 0, it's going to go away, squared, equals -4. P is the distance between the vertex and the directrix, or the vertex and the focus. So I could either count up or down. P is 2. Or I could count the distance between the directrix and the focus and then cut it in half. Like distance between directrix and focus is 4. I could also cut that in half. But that tells me P is 2. And then y minus my k, which is 2. And I'd get x squared equals -8y minus 2. Yep. Why wouldn't I do what other form? Because the y is not squared, the x is squared, right? As soon as I know that the directrix is a horizontal line, I know it's going to point down or up. So it's an x squared. you still have to use the K and the H because it's not at 0, because the vertex isn't at 0, 0. The focus was there, but not the directrix. I mean, not the vertex. Questions? So if I were you, I'd maybe start a small list of like some of these formulas because we're going to go move on to ellipses tomorrow. So like if you've got the parabolas started, you've got parabolas. And you've got without, so with vertex at 0, 0. And there's two kinds. There's one, right, the vertical, which is your x squared equals 4py. Well, that's hard to read, sorry. Your horizontal, which is the y squared equals 4px. Then, if the vertex is not at 0, 0, it's at hk, you've got the vertical, which is x minus h squared equals 4py minus k. And the horizontal, which is y minus k squared equals 4px minus h. This is like one of those things that the practice is definitely going to help you get familiar with. I would say especially with these ones, with the equation ones, don't try to do it in your head. People try to do it in your head. It's so much harder. Just take the 30 seconds to draw yourself a little diagram. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it definitely helps. We are going to add to these conics. Remember, it's parabolas, it's ellipses, it's hyperbolas. We're going to add all that stuff. So the parabolas, you want to master these before we move on to ellipses tomorrow. And then that's what the quiz will do. Like we'll do a day of graphing and the day of the equations. The graphing for the ellipse is where it will stop. But obviously all that stuff's going to be on your test.